Hi, I'm Garrett with IDC Woodcraft, and I'd like to welcome you to this video where we are going to talk about how to have a successful CNC business. I mean actually making good money doing it. This is going to be a little bit different, being that it is going to be an interview with a brother CNCer who started with a CNC machine less than a year ago, with the idea of making something for his dad as a gift, and it has turned into a business where he is getting very profitable, high-ticket jobs for his CNC router. You're going to find this kind of interesting because you're going to start to understand the dynamics behind creating a successful business where you can do very well. There is good money to be made with a CNC machine. You just have to know how. That's why I teach this stuff, so that you can get good with this stuff and have a successful business. I mean, after all, a lot of us who get into CNC, there's a couple reasons we do it. Number one, we're either really tired of a 9-to-5 job. We just walk up to the door and go, oh my God, I'm doing this again? Why am I here? What is my calling, my passion? And now you're being kind of led down the path and you've found CNC. And you're interested in that and you're wondering if you can actually make money doing it. Yes, you can, as you're going to see in this interview that you're going to be watching here. And the other reason people get into it is because they're retiring and they didn't really plan really well for their retirement like me. Yes, they have to find something. And the idea is to find something that you're going to like and feel passionate about. And finally, the other group of people is because they want to find purpose again, right? Retirees is usually the people you get out of the workforce and it's like, where's my purpose now? What am I going to do that's significant to the world or that is significant to you? And you're being led to CNC and wondering if you can actually have a successful business. So that's what this is all about. What you're about to watch is going to demonstrate to you the core foundations that's going to make your CNC business work and work well. So this is a really good dialogue between myself and this guy named Jeff, who came up to me one day and he said, I'm having these projects, and I kind of watched his journey as he's been going through it. You'll understand as we get into this. But you'll see that if you have the right mindset and you believe that you can do it, then you can do it. And that's exactly what happened to him. So listen to this whole thing and adopt the passion behind him. You'll see. All right, so we're going to get into this thing and get you in the right frame of mind and the right frame of heart that you actually can do this. Go after your passion, something that you love, and just turn it into a business and make money. Feel good about something, right? Okay, let's get started in this little dialogue, where you're going to learn a lot of stuff. Let's go. All right, so now we have Jeff, who is a brother CNCer who has gone into the venture of starting a business with a CNC machine. And Jeff has come into some interesting projects that are actually fairly lucrative. And so what I want to do is first of all just introduce Jeff, and then we'll go into how he has managed to get into some CNC projects that are actually earning a decent amount of money. So Jeff, will you take a minute and introduce yourself? Where are you? How did you get into CNC? And then we'll take it from there.
Okay, well, my name is Jeff, and I live in Montgomery, Illinois, and yeah, I got into CNC with by accident, to be honest. I was trying to create some projects for, actually, I was trying to do speaker building because I'm a huge fan of audio, and I was trying to build a speaker for my dad as kind of a memorial piece for my mom. So, because my mom passed away last year in August from pancreatic cancer. And, you know, I wanted to make something that was extremely meaningful, and it kind of combined three elements of my passions into one project. And I couldn't really get it done without a CNC with what I wanted to do. So that's kind of what started the journey, because I was thinking, oh, okay, I'm gonna get a small, 30 by 18. It's just the right size for it. It's just inexpensive enough for me to be able to get it, and if I don't use it again, it's not that big of a loss.
Okay. All right. So you wanted to make speakers for your dad. So you just had kind of this little side idea that you wanted to do. It had some kind of meaning behind it. And that's the whole reason you got a CNC machine?
That is the entire reason why I got a very small CNC machine.
Okay.
And that, yeah. So
Okay. So how, first of all, from the point that we're talking right now, how long ago was that you wanted to come up with this speaker for your dad and bought the CNC machine?
honestly, it was about within the week that my mom passed that I
Okay.
came up with the idea.
So roughly a year ago.
Yeah, roughly about a year ago.
Okay. All right.
Um,
And we're talking CNC router.
well, the idea for the speaker is kind of started there. I didn't really realize I needed the CNC machine to do what I wanted to do until about like January, February, because there's a lot of design processes in between. Because speakers can be very complicated with the electronic components, design components for matching tweeters to the driver, make sure that frequencies, so there's a lot of design in there, not just the enclosure, but the internals and all aspects of the audio. But once I got to that exterior design phase, I'm like, okay, the only real good way to do this is going to be, I'm going to need something that's extremely accurate, because my hands are not that accurate. I was going to try to get a Dremel and do it by hand, and that was not going to work because I wanted this to be perfect. It's still actually a work in progress, but I actually have it right here. So this was the speaker that I'm still working on, but you can see this intricate carving that's on the sides. It has a mirror image on this side here, and then it has a top engraving too.
What's the significance of what you've engraved?
All right, so there's three things that are involved with it. One is the quality of the speaker, because I picked a very small design because my mom was kind of short. So I was like, okay, it's got to be small. It's got to be loud because my mom was loud. So she had a Dutch heritage. So I was going for a Delft blue design. So the engravings are going to have a epoxy with a kind of metallic blue, and then the exterior is going to be a nice gloss white. So that way it kind of has that effect. The design significance actually comes from a comic book that I was a huge fan of, huge, still am. And this has a lot to do with my success with this. And basically these designs are incorporated from a character that exemplified strength, heart, and a fearlessness. So those are all things that I incorporated into that design, as well as the clarity. Because the other thing I was thinking of is my dad has we have all these VHS tapes that my dad wants to convert to DVDs. And my parents never had a good sound system. So I'm like, if he's going to watch these things, I want my mom's voice to come out like it's her own voice. So he can hear her voice again. And I know that's going to mean a lot to him. So that was the importance of that project. And that's why I wanted it to be perfect.
Excellent. Okay. Wow. Well, hats off to you for really wanting to dive into a creative project that's really meaningful. So it led to a CNC machine where you're doing these designs, and then you have gotten work that has led to some significant returns or orders. At this point, we'll talk about that, but let's talk about where you're at right now, and then we're going to step back in time and talk about the progress to get to this point. So where are you at right now? What are you making? What are your orders, and what is the income?
So right now I'm still trying to get consistency and establishing myself. But I came across because of the people I know, So my father works for a plastics company in Madison. And prior to that, I made this bar sign for a friend that I know that is also has very similar interests. So it was within the same group of people that really have the same affinity for that comic book that inspired my speaker. So he wanted a bar sign, and I'm like, hey, I can help you out with that.
When you're saying a bar sign, you're talking about something over his bar.
Yes.
In his house.
Yes.
Okay.
So so him and I dialogued, and I made this 5-foot long LED acrylic bar sign, and we agreed on a price, and that price was $2,900 for a bar sign that had LED lighting, black acrylic letters, a cement style wrap to the backboard, the bolt pattern. So basically, I was trying to recreate the movie prop that was in the movie so that he could have it in his bar. Because these fans that I'm a part of, they're very dedicated to this, and there's no merchandise out there. So I found a need, and I created a product that this person wanted.
Now, to get a picture of what exactly he's talking about that he made, I'm going to show you a picture of it and talk about it briefly, and then we'll get back to the interview with Jeff.
And this is the project that Jeff made here. He made it on a 30 by 30 long mill CNC router, the same one that I have, the one that I recommend. So you can get an idea of the scale of it. So if we go over to the next picture, you can get a closer look at how this is made. So he's made 2 letters per panel. There's 3 panels, and he's put some LED backlighting in it, and he's got these unusual holes all around it that just give it a very interesting characteristic. So this is the sign that really got everything started with Jeff.
And I did this with a 30 by 30. Now, because I did that, and because I had pictures, and because I posted that, and because I couldn't stop talking about this awesome hobby / side business that I was starting, my dad, with this company he's worked with for 15 years, was like, hey, I know we just got these new conference rooms. We don't have anything on the walls for logos for like our meetings. Check out this sign my son made. Maybe he can make a sign for us. So, and now where we're at is I already have an official quote that was submitted to them. My dad's already got a verbal, yeah, we're going to do it. Can you do 4 of them? So basically I have the quote process. I have a verbal agreement. I'm just waiting for the signed agreements to start a small prototype so they can just see and confirm exactly what it's going to look like in a small section of it. But yeah, they're, other than jumping through the hoops of just making sure the right people sign off on it, it's a done deal.
Okay, so can I ask what you're doing for these? Can I ask what the invoice is on that?
So they're going to be $4,000 a piece. They're going to be it's going to be 6 feet long by 2.5 feet tall, and basically it's going to be their logo, and basically the spelling of their name is within their logo. It's going to be backlit, and the letters are going to be made out of acrylic, which is appropriate. They're a plastics company. And then even the back paneling is going to be a white acrylic back there. And then I'll create the framing behind it with the electronic components to it. So it's relatively involved, but it's surprisingly not that hard to get done. When I did the first bar sign, my intention was to max out my machine's capacity. And at the time, it was an expanded 3018. So it was a 30 by 40 at that point.
30 inch by 40 inch. Okay.
So I maxed out the size of the letters to make the biggest sign I could. I just cut the letters out individually, mounted them individually. So I made the biggest product I could to have the biggest price point I could. And that's what I'm going to do with this too, is their logo is going to be about 2 feet by 2 feet. And they were giving me the restrictions on size, because if I go too big, it's going to take up their wall. So I actually had to scale down my design to accommodate their needs.
Interesting. So we'll come back to this in just a second. The first sign you made, it was for someone who has an interest in what specifically is the interest? Is it animation, a certain animation, or
So
what?
it's a comic book.
Okay, now Jeff just said something critical that I want you to start to listen in on. He said comic book. What you're going to find out, it's not just comic books or a comic series. This is really niched down into a very specific one. You wonder why someone is willing to pay nearly $3,000 for something that has to do with a comic book. This is all about niching and the importance of getting into a niche, because the deeper you dive into a niche, the higher the emotional value that people have toward that niche and the more money they are willing to pay. This is a project that was almost $3,000 based on something with comic book. We're going to dive into this so you understand this, and we're going to talk about the psychology of this whole thing about niching. So the whole point here is to get you to understand why a niche is so important and how you can start to find your niche to start making some projects in. So let's get back into this.
It was a movie that came out in 2019.
Okay.
Actually, it's this movie right here. It's, Alita: Battle Angel. Huge fan of this movie because the writer of this comic book's been doing it for 30 years. Same artist, and it was this most obscure thing that when I was a kid, no one knew about. I knew no friends personally who knew about this comic book. And then all of a sudden this movie came out, and some people say it flopped, but there was this rush of people to support this movie because it was awesome. It was legitimately a great movie.
What Jeff is about to say is the core reason why people in niches are willing to spend so much money. Pay very close attention to the next minute of this. And if you need to, replay this last minute over and over and over again until you understand exactly what he said. Because this, if you can connect with it, is what's going to make you the money with your CNC business. Listen in.
And the comic book was one of those things where, as a kid, you know how people are impacted by Batman and Superman,
Yep.
where it becomes a part of them? This was one of those things where it had that much importance into the writing of the comic book. It was very well thought out, but it was very unique because it was dystopian future. It was a rare female character that was a cyborg. So it's just futuristic, but the whole theme of it is a very different, very not US take on what it means to be human and the journey of finding your identity kind of over and over again.
Okay, I hope you picked that up. We're going to rehash this last 1 minute. Jeff mentioned Batman and Superman. They have been in our lives, all of our lives. And they're these superheroes who go through the trials and tribulations of being a superhero and almost get conquered and then come back and win the day. We relate to that type of stuff. But there's an underlying psychology behind that, because in a way, those are identities that we want within ourselves that maybe we don't have, and that's why we embrace those, the superheroes. So what Jeff just said with this character, who is re-identifying themselves over and over again, this is one of those things where a particular group of people can identify with this particular comic series and maybe a character, or the Kansas thing because it's some kind of location. I don't know the comics. This is so vital for you to get, and it is the underlying psychology of a niche. When you can understand that whatever niche you get into, these people that are going to be buying from you, they identify themselves. It's their identity. And there's a certain amount of insecurity within them that makes them have to buy something to express it either to themselves or to the world. I'm going to talk more about that later in this interview with Jeff to get some clarity on this. But I hope you get an aha moment here. Once you understand the psychology behind why someone likes something so much inside of a niche and why they have to have it, that's when you will make the money and you will sell a lot more stuff. And is why it's so important to get into a niche, so you can learn about that particular psychology of that particular niche. All right, we're gonna get back into this, and I won't interrupt for a while, but I'll be back. Let's go.
So it was great. So actually, before I built my dad's speaker, I tested out my first machine with this, and this was a huge crowd pleaser in that community. And it was an art contest that we were doing on Twitter. So once I kind of found that movie and I found these people online, it was, you know, there's people that I know and talk to on a regular basis and stream with on YouTube for this weekly. There's people in Australia, Germany, just all across the world. And ever since I kind of got that machine, I was like, I'm sure I can do a couple of things that people would show some interest in. And they became, honestly, my first customers.
So have you sold other projects in that avatar? When I say
yes.
just when I say avatar, I'm talking about a group of people. This is actually a niche.
Yes.
But, so you've sold several other projects that have been made on your CNC to this group.
Yes, I have.
Okay.
So, and a couple of them was small acrylic pieces that became necklaces that were a significant piece to the story in the comic book. And because of how small a niche that is, I literally just took cutoffs from the Kansas bar sign that I created, and I just was able to make these small things, and people are going to be willing to pay $15 a piece, even though the piece of acrylic was like $12 for a 12 by 12. And I can make 2 of these things in like 30 minutes with my old machine, which I no longer have, because I sold that to get more equipment for my long mill that I got. But yeah, so I did sell to that avatar, and part of it's because there's no merchandise. The movie was kind of like an abandoned piece, even though I think it's great. So, but these people are so dedicated to this idea of this character in this story that they're willing to invest.
Okay, I had to stop because Jeff just said something that you might not have heard. I'm going to repeat it. He said they are willing to invest. People aren't buying stuff. They are investing in their own identities or their own status. This is so important for you to get, because when you do, you will do very well in your CNC business. We're going to talk more about this as we go along. So let's just keep going. People aren't buying stuff. They are investing in something. Self-identity. Come on.
These people, and I'm a part of them, are kind of so gung-ho about this movie that they literally, during the Oscars, hired a plane to fly a banner over the Oscars demanding a sequel for this movie.
Really?
Yes. And they also did fundraising for Open Bionics, which so again, I know that's kind of getting into another piece here, but they did fundraising.
Well, it's actually relevant here, because one of the things that I talk about all the time is the importance of getting into a niche. And one of the things that many CNCers don't realize is that, you know, we get into it and we say, okay, well, I'm just going to make some stuff and sell it. And it ends up not doing well because they don't just have the idea that the importance of a niche. And so this is a shining example of why a niche is so vital, and how you can, if you can find the right niche, that where what you have found, where there's not a lot of product out there, and there's people that are, you know, it's got its own cult kind of feel to it, that it's you said a key word, it's part of their identity. That's what defines a niche, when people identify themselves to that aspect, or that thing that they're passionate about. And the other thing you said is you're part of it. You understand it. You've for whatever reason, you embrace the idea behind it as well, of this reinventing of yourself over and over again, or discovering yourself over and over again. And so you have an emotional attachment to that niche too. And so you understand the feel and the emotions and what people want, just by the very nature of what you want, what inspires you on it.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
this is where I dug into that passion and tried to expand it.
Hmm.
And when you have the rapport with those people, and again, you're not trying to like rip anyone off. You're just like, hey, you have a need. This is something you want. Let me make it happen. This is how much it's worth to me to do that. And it's fair. It's agreed upon. But if I wasn't in that niche, that first bar sign would have never happened.
Right.
And
Right. You said
and
in the,
with
go ahead.
sorry, and with that bar sign came this other opportunity where I have, I mean, a very likely 4 signs that they're going to want that are going to be $4,000 a piece.
Hmm. Right. So between everything that you've just added up in the big jobs, that has turned out to, we're talking what, somewhere around 15 grand. And
Yeah,
that,
over the counter. Yeah,
yeah, gross revenue is over the counter. We're just talking these 4 signs and the Kansas sign,
yeah,
right? Right. And it's 4 grand. That's not including the other stuff that you've made. So,
correct.
so the other thing here, there's a couple things you pointed out. One is you said the word rapport. The rapport is vital to creating not only the customer, but having that customer wanting to pay more. When you are in the same emotional space as that person, there's a underlying understanding. The minute they say Alita, right, you're like, yeah, we're brothers and sisters, right? You belong together, and that automatically ups the value. There's a rapport inside of that. There's already a connection. The other thing that you said, which has just slipped my mind, I'll come back to it. But the other thing is by virtue of that, you also went off into a different direction, uh, because you made this project. It's a big, beautiful project. Somebody was impressed enough, your dad, to mention something to somebody else because he saw the potential. It's he saw an opportunity, and he brought the opportunity forth. And so there's 2 things. You got connections when in the niche already. You're part of the niche. You can talk the language of the niche. You understand the emotional psychology of the niche, because you sat back and you started to think about it, right? And then um, the other side is, of course, you're getting other business as a result of that. So let's just real quick. This was the other thing that I was thinking about. So you charge $50 for something what, that big, roughly, acrylic?
I was about $80.
$80. Okay, so a piece of acrylic that's roughly inside of a
Oh,
12 by 12, right?
so these necklaces were only about like this big. They're about like an
Okay,
inch and a half
okay,
by an inch and a half, and it is not an 8 side, is a 6-sided shape. I name of it's slipping my mind. But basically the significance of it is because these characters, some of them had their brains replaced with microchips. And basically that was one of the characters' brains.
okay.
So basically it had a huge significance in the story. But yeah, so I've already, like, it's a small group of people, but I've had 5 purchases of those out of just spare materials that took no time at all. You just get some leather string from a craft store, you make it into a necklace, and you ship it. And shipping's like $5
Right.
in the U.S. So very inexpensive, and it was a great way to get at least $100 of revenue with what I made just out of those 5.
How much did you sell them a piece?
$15 a piece.
15. Do you think you could have gotten 30?
considering these people were my friends,
Mhm.
I was figuring each one, I already justified my costs out of that material with the sign I made.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, this is just gravy. This is material that's basically free because it was paid for.
Mhm.
It takes 15 minutes a piece to make. So if I made, 3 in 45 minutes and I get $45 out of it, that's $60 an hour.
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, that's decent shop rates, and then plus the shipping. So I figured that's very adequate for what it is. So I felt that was fair, especially within the friends that I've known for the last 2 years now. I'm like, okay, yeah, $15 makes sense. If I were to put this on Etsy, which I tried, it's such a small niche, I got no traction.
You need a website on this one.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to focus on the small. I'm going to gear towards the big.
Mhm.
This is what I like about experimenting is you can kind of stop a product anytime you want. You can just move on to something else. You can stop, you can change, you can do whatever you want.
Mhm.
And that's the beauty of this is if it doesn't work, you can find something else. Your limitations are endless when it comes to making products as long as you got the materials and the time and the tools.
Right, right. Okay, so I want to go back to this pricing thing. So, you said, okay, these are my friends. I'm not gonna, rake them over the coals. So, it's kind of the thought. Out in the market, though, in general, is this something that you could charge $30 a piece for? Within this avatar?
I think with how I was designing it, I think I'd be able to get away with like 2025.
Okay.
But this niche is so small that you're going to exhaust your customers very
Mhm.
quickly.
Okay. Okay. And that's another good point is when it comes to niching, I'm going to be doing a webinar on this, by the way, this whole niche thing. But it's good to niche and it's good to micro niche, but it can be dangerous to sub micro niche just for that reason where you can exhaust the market really quickly.
Right. And that's where, like, I don't want to say that niche was a stepping stone, but there's certain things where, okay, I can do this. I can make some quick revenue to reinvest to step into other avenues. And that's what I viewed that opportunity as is I know this is going to have a limit. This is strike when the iron's hot, kind of get what I can out of it and take that and invest to create more. And that's exactly what I did with the Kansas bar sign. I'm probably not going to do another one of those because it is such a small niche.
So it's interesting that Jeff just pointed out that you can niche yourself down so far that you literally can't make many sales, or you can exhaust the niche. So niche is really important, but understanding how far down to go into a niche is also important. Now, one of the things I'm pointing out here, micro niching is quite important because the more you micro niche, the better you'll do up until that limit where there's just not that many people. You, for example, as a CNCer, you are in a micro niche, and that's the niche that I work with. So it's kind of interesting. It is a broad niche. There's a lot of people in it, like maybe 500,000 people. I don't know the numbers. Actually, I've got to figure that out. But that's still considered a micro niche. So there's still a good customer base out there. It's just not so tiny that you can't make money off of it. All right, let's keep going.
But custom signs is honestly where I want to specialize in, is because especially when it comes to customized, the price point jumps up. It's not a repeatable. You have to do design work, so you're charging time for that.
Right.
By the nature of it being an electronic sign that's going to be used for business, for advertising when people are in their offices, it has a much higher value to them because it's going to give people their impression of their business.
Mm-hmm.
So the value skyrockets in what they're going to be willing to pay for good advertising in their building.
Yep. Yep. That's the reason companies are willing to pay a lot more money. It's part of their brand, and they need to make sure they get that out.
I wanted to stop for a second and say, that I have a lot of videos on this channel about the CNC for beginners, how to do your design work, about your CNC routers, and how to do all the project work in the right way. And I've got a lot of videos relating to how to have a successful CNC business. Now, I've had a lot of people ask me if I had an organized list of all the videos that I've created. Now I do. I've got one just for you. I've gone through the entire channel, got all the videos, got them all sorted, and I've got them on a document, on a PDF document, which you can download right now. Down in the description is a link to download that, and in the first comment line. While you're watching this, you can just click that. It'll download to your computer, and then you can look at it later. All the videos are organized and they're grouped in their appropriate things, the design stuff, the router stuff, and the business stuff. So go ahead down there now, click that while you're watching this, download that and check it out later. Also, if you're finding this compelling, you're interested in CNC routers and starting a business, number one, I can tell you that you can get very successful with it if you do it the right way. Number two, subscribe to the channel, because you'll get all these videos and you'll get all the new videos that I put out. And number three, if you would, if you're getting something out of this, like the video, and I'd love to see a comment from you. All right, let's get back into this. Click that link now to download that document. Let's go.
I want to step back for just a second onto this Kansas sign that you charge $2,900 for. That someone, when you get into a niche, you can find the people. I'm talking in general to whoever's watching this. You can find the people that are so passionate in their niche that they are willing to fork out that kind of money, and that is why it's important to get into a niche. If you aren't in a niche, you won't understand this level of emotional value to people, because that's what it is. It's a completely unnecessary product that somebody wanted, but it's an expression of their identity, and that is why it's so important to them, and that's why they're willing to crank out the money for it. A person will give you as much money as they see the value in it. I think I said that right, not quite. They will buy it from you and they will pay the price that you want when they perceive that the value in it is more than the price that you're asking for it. And that's what happened here. This guy is he has it's so much his identity that he's willing to crank out $3,000 for this cool Kansas sign. And Jeff, with your permission, I will flash it up on the screen so that people know exactly what you're talking about. You're going into this corporate sign, so you're stepping into a completely different niche by accident, which is what usually happens in this, where the reason I say get into a niche is just get stuff created and get it out there, and you may just take off in that niche, or something else will come in from the side and say, wow, this is even better than that, and much more lucrative. So that's exactly what's happened to you. That's what happened to me. It's what happened to many, many people. So then the other good thing is, okay, so now you're zeroing in. You want to do corporate stuff. You want to do the bigger stuff. Maybe not corporate, but I think you sound like you're zoning in on that. And you just want to do the bigger stuff and the more lucrative stuff. Corporate will pay. It's a different mindset because it's much more of a pragmatic approach and practical approach, but they're definitely willing to pay more.
Yeah.
So what is your journey now, that your floor plan that I want to help other CNCers that you are developing right now to move into that new niche?
So again, kind of it being there being a lot of help from family and friends as far as just word of mouth. I think that's crucial when it comes to people wanting to be successful. Is you got to not be quiet about your passion. People just need to know organically, because I don't know how many times I talk about a project and then someone's like, hey, can you do this? And I'd be like, hey, let's talk, let's see, maybe that's something I can do. And then, you know, you get to know them, you build a relationship with that customer, and then you find something that, like, hey, yeah, that's great. Or, hey, give me some ideas. Let me sketch something up and let me just see if you like it. And that's pretty much been what I've done is I'll sketch up a design in Easel. Easel's the software I've been using.
Okay.
And I'll just take a screenshot and I'll send it to them. And most of the time their eyes just light up at the possibility of having something like that, that personal, that connected to them with what they relayed that they would want to see. And I mean, at that point, you pretty much have them. They're like, that's all I need, that I want that. And it's, you know, and that's why sometimes I won't even charge for the design, because with Isla it can be so quick to, like, okay, I made a gift for my friend who has chickens, and so I made, she wanted something that was funny, so I just whipped something up really quick with some basic designs in there, and but she loved it. It was great. Um, so, but the design process is kind of fun because you get to see how they're going to react to it before you invest in the products, before you invest in the tooling, before you invest all your time. It's, let me sketch it up, let me see if you like it.
Mm.
It's something that they see value in because they know you took the time to do it.
Yeah,
And
there is a deeper psychology here that I want to touch on. So when they learn that you can do something like this, where you can create something out of nothing and personalized or more specific, it automatically uh, lights a spark in their head. And it's just like you said, oh, can you do this? Can you do that? And so now they have this idea in their mind, but it's not a tangible idea. It's just something that popped up. And then you create a design. And what you have done is all of a sudden you've made it real for them. And this is what the magic tipping point for them is at a real deep level. It's this idea that all of a sudden is boom, wait a minute, that's like just what I was thinking inside, or more importantly, feeling inside. And so that immediately jumps up the value on it. One of the things you said was the people you know. I want to step back on that, but that psychological importance and understanding the underlying aspect of that is crucial to understanding how to get that business before they get to the people you know. The other thing is, how do you dialogue with these people when they first engage with you? Because this is vital too. This is the rapport building thing. I think I'm sensing that in you. So you get somebody that gets an idea, they say, can you do that? What's your approach with them?
well, usually the start of it is me just talking about, like, oh, this is what I'm into, this is what I love doing. Hey, see these projects I did, doesn't this look cool? And because I can't stop talking about it. I love it. And even just that, you start to see their head, like, even you haven't even asked them, hey, can I make you something? Like, you could just see already in their head, like, oh, that's really cool, I've been thinking about something for my home. So you talk to them like they're your friend. So professionally, I'm a service advisor at a dealership. So I've been in sales for like 14 years. So you have to learn how to, you know, build rapport relatively quickly and be relatively open. And that is, I know, is very crucial, is because you don't want to go right into a sales pitch and pressure them into a product. Is you got to get to know them. You gotta let them know that, like, hey, I want to get to know you as a person before I want to just sell you a product and shove it down your throat. Because I haven't even had to do that. It's, people see art, they appreciate art, they want to see something that's kind of unique to them. And when you can make that a reality and you have that cordial relationship with them, or, you know, uh, you have already kind of found out similar interests because you've had a 10-minute conversation by the time you get there. But you just talk to them like they're your friend, or it's someone you'd be, you know, seeing on a weekly basis at church, or just, you know, you're friendly with them.
Yeah,
So you got to break the walls down.
yeah, the importance here is it's about them, and you can't become a friend with them unless you are showing interest in them. One of the things that's important here is when you're talking to them is they are when people, anybody watching this, when you are talking to somebody and they respond to you in some way that's negative, you immediately put a wall up, and that stops your ability to create, because or it stops their ability to get that imagination, that spark going inside, where the little ideas pop up, because their focus is more on, I don't like you, right? And so that's why rapport is so important, and showing an interest in them. This is never about you as the CNCer. It is always about them. And so when you show an interest in them, that takes down that initial, I don't know if this person's cool or not. It takes it down, and they say, okay, this person's cool because they're showing an interest in me. It all comes back to that radio station, what, WIIFM. What's in it for me, right? We all want to stand out. We want to talk about ourselves. So if you let your prospect talk about themselves, you're letting that wall come down, and they're feeling warm about you and stuff like that. And then the ideas come out.
So this is so important too, that I'm going to talk to you about this. I've said it 100 times. Your business is not about you, it's about your customer. And your customer will not buy from you until their guard is down and they feel like you feel that they are important. You have to have empathy for your customer. And so that requires a bit of finesse on your part to be able to shift gears to the different perceptions that people have. Some people like this kind of thing, some people like this kind of thing, and you have to be able to shift into that and empathize with them. Empathy is the key. Empathy is you feel their pain or their desire, or you're excited because of their excitement. You're basically mirroring who they are, and that validates who they are. Jeff is actually in kind of an interesting career, because we all know the idea of a car salesman, right? When we go to the car lot, boom, here they come. So he has to have a certain amount of skill in that initial meeting with them, where they immediately start to take down their guard. When you put out negative energy, and this is like the most important thing if you get out of this, if you have some kind of negative energy in you, like, I gotta have that sale, that's negative energy, you are going to project that in your body language, in your facial expressions, in your tones of your voice, and your customer is going to indirectly experience that, and that's what's going to put up the wall. And the minute that wall starts to come up, the energy in their mind of imagination gets all diverted to this on guardness against you if you have a negative energy or a neediness from them that you need that sale. So I hope I explained this to you right. You want to take interest in your customer and basically mirror them, treat them like they're your friend, be interested in them, and empathize with them. And start to explore that desire. Why are they there looking at your stuff in the first place? Why are they just taking that extra minute? There's something there. And if you can find that and start to draw that out by becoming a friend and just dialogue in with them, you'll get a lot more sales. All right, let's get back to this.
So I want to talk about the people you know, because you said that a couple times. So let's talk about the people you know that has enabled you to get into this direction, because the people you know is one of the resources to make this happen. Facebook, the people you know, or your work associates, etc.
Again, primarily, and I'm expanding this now. And actually, within the last few days, there's been a lot of expansion since we talked last. But the core group of people that were in that niche was where it kind of initiated and started. And then from there, it was just coworkers, friends, people I would chat with on a regular basis on Facebook, because I would throw posts like, hey, check out my last project. Like, oh, hey, check out this sign I made for a friend of mine.
Facebook. If you don't like Facebook and you refuse to get on it, you are missing out on a world of opportunity. I'm going to tell you, if that's you, what my mentor has told me. If you don't like Facebook, you don't like money. Get on Facebook. Start sharing what you do. Let the business come to you. This thing with Facebook that I hear from people from time to time, I don't like it, I refuse to use it. If you're one of those, I would challenge you to explore yourself as to why. What is it really that has made Facebook this bad thing that you won't touch? Facebook is a gold mine of opportunity. I just had to throw that in because I want you to succeed. When we're getting in business, our opinion of what we like and what we don't like doesn't matter. We need to go where the business goes and where we can get it from. And that's being a true business person who is willing to accept success. That you use the tools that are going to make your business successful. Let's keep going.
One of the guys that I got to know, and he's been a huge help to me, his name's Drew. He has his own business where he works with cutting boards, making coasters, and he goes to basically craft shows on a daily basis. His 3-car garage is all just a giant wood shop, and it's awesome. So one of the few things that I did make with my really small machine before I even expanded it was I was talking with him and I was like, hey, do you even have a logo yet? No, I don't have a logo. Okay. So I sketched something up where it was a hand planer that was cut into a pocket, and it had his business name, DK Custom Woodworks Company. And, so I was like, yeah, hey, I want to test out my machine. So give me a piece of wood that you'd want me to carve it into, and I'll do it for you. And I met him through the dealership. He was actually a customer, and then we became friends. And so yeah, I made him that sign, and basically in exchange, he would give me these really nice cutoff pieces that were perfect for my machine, because it was 6 inches by 9 was about the limits you could do. So he gave me a bunch of them, and I'm like, this is great. Now I have opportunities to make things and sell things, and it was a great trade. And we've kind of worked with each other in that capacity with that. So we've helped each other out. He's given me a lot of tools. But that's one of the people I know. And he goes to shows. And he has tons of people that will ask him, like, hey, can you like engrave something into your cutting boards? And he's like, I don't have that capability. And he's been asking me forever, get business cards. I have people that want things customized, and I can get them to you. And I'm like, all right, well, so I got business cards now.
Right. Okay. So you've mentioned a couple of things here that I just want to point out. Number one is there's a book out called 6 Degrees. It's been out for quite a long time. But what that means, the basis of the book is, somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, so by virtue of that, this guy knows a whole bunch of people that can funnel into you. And he can give you business, and that can build up that way. But that would never would have happened without the law of reciprocity, which is the other thing you have engaged. So the law of reciprocity is when we do the unexpected for somebody that's beneficial to them, they are indebted to you. And it's an emotional indebtedness, and so they have to fulfill that. If not, it'll bug them. It's one of those things where you just remember, daggone, 20 years ago that person gave me $20 and I still owe it to them. That's the power of the law of reciprocity, and that's exactly what has happened here. And that's why this has happened, because you keep in whatever way you keep that engaged, and so so the only way you can do that is by giving you the things that is going to help you in one way or another. I'd like you to take a minute to share with whoever watches this video, or brothers or sister CNCers, in any way, shape, or form in a CNC machine that they have, from this place that you're at, from when you started less than a year ago with your CNC, what's the advice that you would like to give when it comes to turning their CNC into a business?
I would say, talk to people about your passions with it. If it's something you're passionate about, talk about it. And it's natural. Like, it comes naturally when you talk about it. People get interest. Their interest gets piqued, especially if it's something that they have been, if it's been something that, like, oh, hey, I've been looking to get this thing in my house. I haven't found the right one yet. Or, it's sometimes it just sparks, and they're like, they have this random idea, and you can make that random idea come to life. The more you talk about it, the more exposure you have. The more people see it, the more people are interested in it. So you're going to get more people, because you're going to get word of mouth. I literally the last couple of days, I just started doing the online presence with a Facebook page. So all of this prior to was all organic word of mouth. So, use your friends, use your family, make something so that you can take a picture of it and throw it on your Facebook post and just let people know, hey, this is a hobby I love to do, or hey, this is a small business I'm starting to get into. And your friends and family will, they'll probably carry you through a little bit. They'll share things. They'll talk about it. If you give someone a gift like that, they won't stop talking about it. So don't be afraid to take risks with the product, because you can always make a new product. Experiment, have fun with it, make stuff just for yourself. Spend time diving in. And that's what I've had the ability to do, is to just make stuff I've wanted, and that I know other people would have a similar interest too. And people see it, they talk about it, they ask you about it.
Mhm. One more question for you is, you got into this with the sole intention of making something for your dad.
Yep.
And did it turn into a passion by virtue of this, or did you already have some kind of creative passion before, or is the CNC a new passion? Talk about that a little bit. And the reason I want to say this is because what you are expressing is the passion. That's what people are seeing, right? And that passion is contagious. When they see that, they want that, right? And when, by virtue of your journey and your heart and your spirit, somehow they just want that. And that's what brings in that interest as well.
This is another important thing I'd like to point out to you. Jeff keeps talking about this passion that he has for doing this thing. And that passion is contagious. There's a psychological thing that's going on with that as well. When you're really passionate about what you're doing, you've got a lot of positive energy, and somehow people sense that and they want that. A lot of times it's because they don't have quite the same amount of energy that you have while you're engaging. And so it becomes contagious. It's kind of like a magnet. For people who have something of a negative disposition, they aren't attracted to it. They're actually repulsed by it, because their character makeup has a hard time dealing with that very positive, passionate type of personality that you're expressing. In fact, they're resentful of it. And so they want to stay away. That's why misery loves company. That's why the rich hang with the rich. That's why a CNCer hangs with CNCers. You share the same passion, you have the same energy. But in this business aspect, when you're very passionate inside, that comes out again in your body language and the way you talk and the way you look at them. You're just alive, and you know it, and they can feel it. So that passion's really important, and that has a serious effect on the success of your business. That's why I say check yourself. If you're in a place where you need something and you're attached to that sale, and you'll feel like, oh, if I don't have that sale, I'm a failure. No, it's the other way around. The fact that you love what you're doing is what is actually going to bring the money and the business to you. Let's keep going.
If you're in it, I got to make money, and that's your primary focus, you're also going to struggle with that. So when did this passion, talk about the passion?
So I never really thought I was much of an artistic person. I think I'm a very, although I never went to school for engineering, I have that mindset. I like how mechanics work. I like to know how things are what they are. I kind of like to find the limitations of things, or kind of why things are the way they are. So just how a CNC machine works, the software, the G code, and how it actually functions was really cool to me. It's like as a kid, I couldn't resist pushing buttons in Best Buy. It would drive my mom nuts because the stereo would be blasting in a store. She'd be embarrassed. But like that, I like how mechanics work, and kind of seeing something that you've created a picture of come to life in front of you, where you're like, man, it'd be really cool if I could make this happen. And you see it happen. And sometimes it's actually better than you expect, because you know the limitations of the machine and you're like, this is probably going to screw up. And then when it doesn't, and you're like, wow, this looks great. Like this sign I made for me and my wife. So this one here, I know it's kind of flipped.
I can read it.
But this one here, I created, and it was a test, because no one really, I've never seen anyone do a recessed last name. It's always been stacked on a positive on the plane. And part of the reason why I did this is because I figured the less material you remove on the full plane, the more you're going to save your bits. So you're actually carving less wood, but you're creating a much stronger contrast in the letters. So it's going to take less time, and you're going to save your bits, and it's something that was very unique.
Right.
But seeing that come to life was awesome. It's like watching a campfire. It's like, some people love sitting down, smoking a cigar, and drinking a bourbon. This is something I can watch this for hours just come to life, because I'm the one who created it, and I like my own creations. It's great.
He likes his own creations. It's great. Isn't that why we are doing this in the first place, or have an interest in it? Because we want to feel passionate about something again. This is why I say, if you're feeling that in your spirit, just go for it. Don't hold back. We'll be talking about that in just a little bit anyway. So I just want to say, you are a creator, and you have this amazing ability within you to do some really cool stuff that will not only make you feel good about what you're doing, but it'll make other people feel good. And when you can make other people feel good, they're willing to pay you. Let's keep going.
And one thing I experienced is with my friend Drew, I made him a 30-inch long sign with his logo that he's actually used at his shows. And there's such a sense of pride in seeing your work actually being used in a professional capacity, where other people are seeing it, other people are commenting on it, other people are like, where did you get that? Can you do that for me? No, I can't, but here's this guy, he can do these things for you. Seeing those things come to life, and to see other people's reactions to it, that's the passion. Seeing other people's faces light up, that's where my passion is
Yep.
fulfilling the need.
You have just brought it down to the core of why we get into CNC. There are two reasons. One is this sense of purpose in a certain way. We all have a creative energy in us, and in life we end up living in basically a box. You have to plug in 8 o'clock and check out at 5, whether you have work to do or not, right? You just have to be there, and it's very methodical, mechanical, and there's all these rules around it, and it stifles our creativity. And so when we can finally let that out, and we actually see it in real life, something that we had this idea way in the back of our mind, there's such a deep sense of self-pride that we have been able to accomplish something. And the other side is the need for status, the need for significance and recognition. And when somebody, just this instance where you've got something out there and somebody's going, wow, that is such a cool project. You know, it may not even be directly to you, but you see it as a third party. There's that sense of, yeah, I did that. Yeah, that's for me. That was my hand. That was my mind, right? And that you see their joy. It brings us a certain sense of self-pride. And I think a lot of people, I've actually heard this from people I've mentored, they feel like they're being selfish when they're saying, I just like to get the praise, right? But it's a basic human need, and it's okay. And so what I will share to the whole entire world, that if you're looking at this CNC stuff and you're just feeling a pull, then by all means do it, because it is your creative spirit so trying to get out. And for most of us, we live in this box where that creative spirit has been crushed down to live under the rules of society that you shouldn't do certain things, or we come to believe that. And so now you have the opportunity. Your spirit inside, that creative side of you, is screaming to get out. And if CNC routers or CNC lasers is what you're being drawn to, get it and try it. You know, we get afraid, I think, because we don't know if we can actually do it.
Yeah. And for me, I didn't make our living situation stop me. So when I first got my first one, we were in a 2-bedroom apartment. I had no garage. I literally had a little 3018 Prover, and I had a Rubbermaid bin to store it in, and it was in my closet. So I would literally take this thing out, plug in my wife's computer because I didn't have one. It was hers that she had from, like, doing college classes. And I would create my projects. I'd take my vacuum, I'd vacuum up the sawdust in the carpeted area, and I would make stuff. And what I committed to myself was I was only going to take the money that I made from that and reinvest and reinvest and reinvest. And honestly, since the beginning of this year, I've gone from having that small initial investment of $350 for my CNC machine that I got to now I have a long mill, a dedicated laptop, a garage, a new home. I mean, it didn't pay for the home. We're in a position now where I have a heated garage, and my plan is in 2 years I want to do this full time. I want to be able to get away from the 9 to 5 and be my own boss. So this is the journey that I'm looking to do. And originally, when I started, I'm like 5 to 10 years. But the more I do this, the shorter that time is becoming, and the more and more this is like, oh wow, I got to talk to a lawyer and now actually get like a LLC going, or like I need to like get a tax guy because this is how much I'm bringing in. And even seeing my wife going from, oh, this is going to be another one of those hobbies, to, wow, okay, yeah, let's make space in the garage. let's yeah, that's fine. We need to get that planer. Okay, cool. Let's, and it's all been with money that I've made with only that. I haven't touched anything else. It's all been self-contained. So when it comes to people thinking, oh, this is going to be really risky, it doesn't have to be risky. If you take that initial investment and you just say to yourself, I'm not going to buy anything else until I make that money back with the tools that I got, that's fine. That's what I did. And now I'm here. Now I have a amazing 30 by 30 long mill that can pretty much do whatever it wants.
Yeah, in a
within the
relatively short
limitations.
period of time.
In
And
less
on
than a
that,
year.
yeah, on that note, down in the description is going to be a link. I've created all the videos that I've created have been put into a PDF, and they're all organized now. So it's organized by the beginner who's just getting into it, and then the design, and then the getting into business. It's all sectioned out and it's put in order. So if you want to start learning some of this stuff, then by all means go down in the description and download that. Then you won't have to do fruitless searching for that right thing. You'll have it all in order. Okay, well, so we've talked for quite a while, and so I'm going to wrap this up. And you've given your advice to them. I guess if you could put it in 2 sentences, what's your final word to a brother and sister who's on the fence?
Don't be afraid. Just it's okay to jump in. It's if you want to do it, do it. You're only going to live one life. You might as well just do it.
Oh, only going to want to live one life. You know, Jeff, I got to say this because you just hit a spot in me that made the difference in my life. Was 10 years ago, my best friend Bob, he had cancer, and it was 2 weeks before he died. It was the last time we talked. We'd gone to a park, and we were sitting at a park bench, and we were talking. He said, suddenly he just kind of went off into space for like a minute. I was like, well, you know, what's wrong, Bob? And he just turned back to me and looked at me, and he said, if I could do it again, I would have lived in Sedona, right? He lived in Cincinnati. And because my wife had died a year earlier, I was really raw and was already like, what am I doing with my life? And that just hit home that he had got to the point where he could no longer go after those dreams, right? And now he was living in regret. And that's exactly what Jeff just said. You only live once. And then the clock will run out eventually. So, Jeff, thank you for taking the time to share with our CNC brothers and sisters of this business journey, and that you can literally do very well in this building your own CNC business. You just have to trust the process and go for it and let the process work itself out, because we don't know the road ahead of us. It's when we get there, we look back, that we say, oh, that's how I got here, right? And it works itself out. But the way I believe the universe works, God, whatever, is the doors open when we open ourselves up to allowing the opportunities to come. And that's one of the ways. So, Jeff, I'm going to end this, and I want to thank you for sharing this.
Well, thanks.
And I'm sure that you have inspired people to give it a second thought, because you are a prime example of exactly what doing your own thing is all about. All right.
Well, thanks for having me. And
Yeah.
again, a lot of your videos have helped me through the journey. So,
Okay, excellent. All right. So we'll talk to you later.
Well, I hope you got something out of this, like maybe a little bit of a paradigm shift where you're starting to see what it's really going to take to make that business successful. One of the most important things that you've learned in this is about the customer, right? If you can make that customer feel good, if you can draw out that need for them to be noticed and recognized, and find their passions, what they really want, you can do really, really well. Remember the PDF that has all the videos that I've created organized. You can download that right now by clicking down in the first comment on the comment line or down in the description of this video. Subscribe to the channel if you feel like this is helping you out and you're new to CNC routers with all the design work and the CNC machines. I got all that here, and business education. And finally, like the video, and I'd love to see a comment. What are your takeaways from this video? The aha moments that make you know you can do it, because you can do it. You are a creator. That's what's trying to come out of you if you're on the fence with this whole thing. Just go for it. Download that document that has all the stuff in there too about how to research your way into getting the right machine for you instead of making a bad mistake, because there are bad machines out there. I'm Garrett with IDC Woodcraft. Let's get successful doing something that we love doing.